But I'm gonna go to this mall, and the reason why I want to think about a mall is because it's Mars. This is kind of some Mars and Gemini adventures is how I would frame really every day right now for all of us, because we're having to brace Mars and Gemini. So I'm gonna go out to a mall today and just explore. I got errands to run. This is my day off. I always day off. Always stuff going on with me as a content creator and as an astrologer, always stuff to do. I'm gonna go drink tea as always. But Mars can be action. You ever been to a mall? It's kind of frenetic. People are going right to where they need to go. A lot of the times you have to kind of brave, people walking around or going up the escalators. So there's a certain deliberate activity and like errand lists that people are knocking out. That's certainly a Mars. And then it's Mercury, the trade, the business, right? People are trading, changing things. You've got people selling you stuff, little kiosks, people, hey sir, come here, trying to like sell you stuff. Not really as much at this mall, but malls have a Mars, Mercury. So I'm gonna enjoy a little bit of that here with Mars in Gemini. And Mars is now getting longer in Gemini, longer in the tooth, as they say, older in Gemini. And we're getting ready to get into the Mars retrograde zone, where Mars will cross the degree that it will station direct in January. So just to come back in and get a little bit more specific about the dates of the upcoming Mercury retrograde, and so we have some exactitude here as we're talking about it. Mercury stations retrograde 10 September, 5:38 in the morning in Central Europe, so that's 9 September. There in North America, 8 degrees, 55 degree minutes of Libra. So we get that nice air trine between Mercury and Mars. Mercury will station direct on 2nd October, 11:07 here in Central Europe, 24 degrees, 11 degree minutes, stationing direct, powerful back in its domicile of Virgo. And then we are going to come into a period here in October, which I think is some of the best astrology of the year, of the rest of the year. It's this Libra stellium that emerges with a lovely trine, air trine between Mars and Gemini, and that Mercury, Venus, Sun stellium in Libra, all before Mars stations retrograde. And so this is the pocket that I'm looking at, to October into later in October, when things get crazy really fast. Right at the end of October, there's going to be heavy shifts. And then, of course, there'll be a later Mercury retrograde in late December and then the first part of January. That one is interesting, all in Capricorn. And this is during actual Mars's retrograde itself. And so this is, I think, even more retrograding. This will be even more intensely felt as the experience of a retrograde, because both Mars and Mercury can simultaneously retrograde, Mercury ruling that Mars. Update, a little vlog, transit update, because there's always, like, the transits need to be talked about regularly, and I want to keep doing that just because of how important it is. Like, we're about to come up on a Mercury retrograde, A plus importance of preparation. September 9th, Mercury stations retrograde. And this is in a larger context of a Mars retrograde we've entered now. And so the energies are set in some ways for the rest of the year. Now there's a lot of activation, but Mars-Mercury combinations increasingly important this fall and late winter, because Mars is in Gemini that whole time. And so what Mercury does, I think I was sharing about this in my Mars in Gemini video, but what Mercury does greatly impacts Mars. And so we have to keep watching Mercury, keep thinking about combinations of Mars and Mercury, action through business, action through writing, thought, trade, fighting through writing, fighting through business, fighting through thought, trade, delays and blocks of all kinds related to those themes. And we better get ready. I mean, I'm looking at the stock market, man, crashed. And who knows what can happen with that, but it's not looking good. The economy is looking horrible and those energy prices. And this is exactly Mars Mercury combinations: challenge, obstacle around the price of things.
And then the other thing to keep in mind, you can just understand, look how many signs Mercury will move through during Mars's time in Gemini. Mars's ingress into Gemini up until Mars leaves Gemini. And that whole period is the Mars and Gemini story. A subset of that story is the exact period of Mars's retrograde, which starts at the retrograde station and ends at the direct station. But I like to consider the Mars and Gemini story as inclusive of the Mars retrograde story. And we're already in that Mars in Gemini / retrograde story because those themes are already extant, right? Mars is already blending with Mercury. And so you're very likely to understand or be engaging with some of the things that are probably going to come up during the Mars exact retrograde period, late October to January, mid-January. But yeah, just to come back, I mean, we can map how our Mars retrograde goes by looking at where Mercury is and the condition of Mercury. Of particular interest is the period here where you've got Mercury entering Sagittarius on 17 November until 6 December. That's a weaker Mercury during the Mars retrograde. So this one might be uniquely challenging. You've then also got a Mercury in Pisces, 2nd March to 19 March. That's one to watch as well. Maybe a little bit of a weaker period. The two times that Mercury itself will be in Mars-ruled signs. So in Scorpio, there will be an exchange of signs, not a mutual reception because there's no aspect between Scorpio and Gemini. But then you'll have this final week of the Mars in Gemini story with Mercury in Aries. That's going to be lovely. Right around the spring equinox, you're going to have a nice sextile between Mercury and Mars to finish out and push Mars into that Cancer ingress.
For the rest of this year. I mean, really, we need to buckle up. I feel like getting like Boy Who Cried Wolf stuff, but you can't do that because reality is more mysterious and no one really knows. You know, things could change. But certainly we're in a situation where there's now some likelihood of things that are wildly crazy that were not likely before. You know, transits can manifest in weird ways. Sometimes they manifest in things we read, things that we are just around us. And for me, I've seen it can manifest in film. Sometimes I just watch a movie and it's like, wow, this is the transit happening. And I just started Game of Thrones because they have the new House of the Dragon just came out. I watched that. I was never really into it before. And I even turned off House of the Dragon when I first started. I was like, and then I turned it back on and it got me, it hooked me in. It's Mercury Mars, right? There is so much negotiation and maneuvering that isn't active warfare that happens in those shows. It's people posturing, setting their plans, thinking about their plans. There's, you know, kind of mental trickery, evasion through language. And then, of course, there are moments of active war. Anything we do, if you're going to be out negotiating to even buy an orange or something, I mean, you go out into the world, people want things from you, you want things from them. And these are Mars-Mercury combinations, which, again, the major theme of this time, of this period of life. I'm enjoying Game of Thrones. That's a simple thing. It's really cool. I like how, and this is the other thing about these retrogrades of Mars and Mercury, blocks and delays, and it's the unexpected. We're about to enter into pockets of energy where we might not know. We might not be able to expect what's coming. And this is what I love about Game of Thrones, because I'm watching these shows. I could go read about it, and I'm stopping myself. Like, I have no idea what's happening, episode to episode. All kinds of crazy twists and turns. And this is the attitude, the flexibility, and the adaptability of retrograde season, particularly with Mars and Mercury combinations.
And so if we just come in here and look at the chart of this retrograde, just trying to navigate and delineate here a little bit of what the energies may be. Here's Mars, here's Mercury, 8 degrees, 35 degree minutes, getting ready to station. There it is on the 9th, it's stationing on the 10th, and then it's moving retrograde on the 11th. And so where is the ruler of Mercury? Well, that is Venus in Virgo. This retrograde station may have particular challenges given that Venus is fallen there in Virgo under the beams of the sun. Yes, it's in its chariot Egyptian term that may help mitigate somewhat what we're going through. But I would look for the ingress of Mercury into Virgo as a major shift in this retrograde, where Mercury will be back in its domicile right around the moment of its cazimi there. It cazimis the sun just as it is transitioning the boundary between Libra and back into Virgo there. And I think the exact cazimi is in Libra. Remember, Mercury does well in Libra. It has night triplicity rulership over the air signs. And so there is some strength for Mercury. Then it ingresses back into Virgo, will meet Venus, which will be a nice period. But then you see by the time we're getting to the end of this Mercury retrograde, there becomes a stellium in Libra, that now we're getting into some of that really sweet astrology after the direct station here. Mercury stations direct in its domicile Virgo, then re-enters Libra, where it now will be powerful as that morning star, where its ruler Venus will be strong there with it. Before Mars stations retrograde, that final month of October, mid-October, really strong astrology. So look to maybe make some of your moves during that period.